Hi, Brian Noda with EVTV. We're going to be plumbing the Mini Cooper now. We have the controller installed, the motor installed, and we've got our pump, our water pump, coolant pump installed. So now we have to plumb all that. One of our options was just to go with regular hose. However, as we normally do things, we try to do as best as we can, find the best equipment. And in this case, the best equipment is braided stainless line. We've got a couple of different sizes here that we're going to be using. We're going to be using a half-inch size or AN8 for the pump to the motor and back out. And we're going to be using AN12 for the controller pump setup over to the radiator. Two different sizes we're using for the application. One is our controller needs to be 3/4 inch, so we're going to be using this AN12, and this half-inch in the AN8. AN is a designation Army, Navy, and you'll find these fittings in high-pressure situations, aircraft, places where catastrophic failure would be catastrophic. We just don't want leaks, and it looks a lot cooler. But we do have to do some work with it. There are a couple of different manufacturers, actually 3 that we're going to be using. One is Earl's Performance Products, and you may be familiar with them. They own, oh gosh, I think Holley Carburetors now, or owns them. They've got nitrous oxide systems. So Earl's is part of a pretty good company now that makes these fittings. Also, another one that we're using is Messier. And it's kind of a mishmash. Everybody doesn't make everything, so sometimes you do have to mix the parts, and that's fine. And last but not least, Russell products here. So we're looking at 3 different manufacturers: Russell, Messier, and Earl's. We're using AN8 and AN12 to plumb this. What we're going to talk a little bit about here is how you actually do the fittings. It's not rocket science, but when you look at them when they're completed, if you ever got them in a brake line, and we've got steel braided brake lines, they all come set up. Some water lines, fuel lines, and you just buy them stock for the application. We have to create the application. We have to create the part for this application. So one of the things, if you notice here, they've got on the ends, they've got these wrapped up in tape. The reason that they do that, and we're going to go ahead and expose one of the ends here, is because when you cut these are all braided pieces of stainless steel. When you cut them, they can fray, and you don't want that to happen. So anytime that you cut them, you either want to use a couple of rounds of electrical tape, masking tape. Before you cut, you don't want to use, I wouldn't use anything with more teeth than 32. Less teeth than 32 to the inch if you're going to use a hacksaw. Also, you can cut them with a, like the little die cutter on a moto tool, real thin on the Dremel, and that'll give you a real nice cut. Sometimes you'll have to take some nice set of dikes or wire cutters and just trim off the edges, because what you're ultimately going to do, and we'll take a look at this, this is a 90-degree, I sound like Elmer Fudd now. We have the same problem when it comes to our R's. A 90-degree swivel fitting, and we'll be using this. It comes in 2 pieces. One is the piece that's actually going to go over the hose. So we'll go ahead and drop that in there and show you what that looks like. So we put it in and go ahead. There are threads, and we're just going to let it bottom out there. And I don't know if you can see in there because it's dark, but we've got that on there. The other side has the barb and has the threads, and it's actually going to go inside of this hose. We're going to have to compress it up to the threads, and then we'll draw it up. We're going to put this end in a vise, and we'll show you all that. Put this in a vise, and we turn this, and we'll go ahead and that'll draw it up. One thing at this point is I bottomed this out on the fitting. You want to pull this back maybe a 1/8 to a 1/16 of an inch here, not more than that. So I'm retracting this end just a slight bit. I'm going to mark it, because when we do put this together, we want to make sure that this hose hasn't been pushed out of the fitting. We want to make sure that it butts right up to that when we're done, because we're going to be applying quite a bit of pressure in there. We've also got the assembly lube from Earl's. And what we're going to do with the assembly lube is we're going to put it all over the threads. We're going to put it on this barb. I'm not going to put it on here right now because I need to get a towel and stuff, but we'll show you this. And we're just going to lube everything up here, you know, kind of generously, but we don't want to get a lot of it in the lines or anything. And that really aids when you start to draw this up. So we're going to go ahead and show you the rest of this in the shop. As we do this, we're also going to have to, once we get this one on, we're going to have to go to the vehicle, we'll route the plumbing, and we'll show you cutting the other side and applying the, it'll be a straight end on that side. All right, we've moved back in the shop, as you can see. Got our fitting on here with a mark, pulled out about a 1/16 of an inch, no more than an 1/8. Got our barb here. You know, this is pretty expensive, nice looking parts here. We're going to have to put it in a vise, and we do need to have it. So let's go ahead and just put a little wrap of some electrical tape around this. It just helps. It doesn't do anything except keep it from getting scratched up in the vise. Ultimately, it's going to, but oh well. So what we want to do is get this fitting up inside here. And then we're going to clamp it in with the vise. Get it flat. Don't want the points. And get it in there good. Okay, we talked about the Earl's assembly lube. We're going to go ahead and drop that on the on all of this, because this is what's going to be drawn up into the hose itself. I'm going to pop that on. See if we can wipe our hands on anything. All right. We've also got a nice tool here. This one we got from Summit. This helps on this side to not scratch it up. It's aluminum on aluminum. It makes it a little better than using a regular wrench. We've got these in AN8 and 12, and they're kind of cool. It's always nice to buy tools you'll never use again anyway. So we're going to go ahead and put this in. Let's see, we just moved it. And what I'm just trying to do now is start this to where I can get the threads going. It just takes a little patience. Not much. Put a little more lube. I'm just not quite there yet. Right over the threads. All right, so we've got them. So now is where we really have to watch this hose. So again, we don't want it to get pushed out of here now as we tighten this. We've got that in. Our hose looks good. We're on our mark. And we're going to go ahead and release it from the vise. And that is the swivel side of our AN fitting. Now we're going to go ahead and put this on